Hi y'all, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. Today I have something fun and new that I have designed just for you guys. If you are interested, grab some fabric and follow along. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos. So let's get to it. What you need to make this bag, which is a messenger bag, is 1.5 yards of fabric for lining, pockets, and strap. You need 1 fat quarter for an accent color, 2 fat quarters as your main color, and some fusible interfacing, as well as some batting or felt or flannel or foam or whatever your preference is to harden the bag up or make it a little bit more stiffer so that it's not just too soft and falling apart. You will also need 1 9 or 10-inch zipper. You could probably get away with an 8-inch zipper as well, as long as you have a way to trim it down if needed. You will also need all your magnetic snaps to close the bag, and this is what they look like with all their hardware. You need 3 sets. You also need 2 D-rings. You also need one 1-inch hook adjuster. I actually have no idea what this is truly called. I just know that it's for an adjustable strap. So you just need one. And you also need 2 hook clasp or lobster claws or whatever these are called. This comes open so that it can clasp to the D-ring. So that is all the extra supplies you will need. From your focus fabric, you need to cut 2, one from each fat quarter. So here was my fat quarter. If your fat quarter is 18 inches wide, cut 16 inches out of it and 12 inches up on it. So 12-inch by 16-inch piece, as well as your interfacing. Okay, and iron it on, or however your interfacing says to do, and then cut out 2 inches in the corners of both pieces. So here I have both pieces, front and back, from my main color, which is the 2 fat quarters, and I cut out 2-inch squares out of both corners. Again, 12-inch by 16-inch. With your accent fabric that you have cut, you will be cutting from 1 yard, you will need 2 5.5 by 6.5 inch cuts. These you will put some interfacing on. I know you can't tell, but it's on there. So again, 2 5.5 by 6.5 inch pieces with interfacing on them. Then you will need 4 3.5 by 4.5 inch pieces. 2 of these you will interface, and 2 of these you will leave as is. Again, 4 cuts that are 3.5 by 4.5. 2 of them will get interfacing, and 2 of them will not. Then 1 5.5 by 15 inch, just 1 5.5 by 15 inch piece, and this you will also interface. 5.5 by 15 inch, just 1 piece, and then 1 4-inch by 5-inch piece that you will also interface, as well, and I'll show you this now, as fold it in the center, press it, then take and fold one side up to the center, press, fold the other side to the center and press, and then fold in half and press. So this piece got interfacing on it. It is 4" by 5". Again, 2 5.5 by 6.5" pieces. They both get interfacing. 4 3.5 by 4.5" pieces. 2 get interfacing and 2 do not. 1 5.5 by 15" piece, and that also gets interfacing on it. From your yardage, you need to cut 2 12 by 16" lining pieces. If you just cut from the selvage and up, if you're using the selvage up, you would cut out 16 inches wide, or you can cut it 12 inches wide. It's up to you. So it's 12" by 16". And we're going to go to this last step right here, because whatever way you cut it, at the end of your yardage, you will have a fold like this left over. You want to save that piece for the inner pocket that we will be making. That will need to be trimmed down to 10.25 in width by 19.5 inches long. Again, 12 by 16". You need 2 of them, and you need to cut out a 2-inch square on each side. You do not need to interface these unless you want to. That is 100% up to you. Again, the pocket is the leftover. That is the last number on this chart. Then you need to cut 2 5.5 by 6.5" pieces. 2 5.5 by 6.5" pieces. 1 5.5 by 15" piece. That will be for the front flap. Cut yourself 2 4" by width of fabric strips. The whole width of fabric, 2 4" strips by width of fabric. And last, 2 7 3/4 by 16" pieces for your inner slip pocket. Again, you can interface these if you want, or you can choose to just leave them be. Again, that is 2 12 by 16" pieces for your lining, 2 5.5 by 6.5 pieces for your front pockets, 1 5.5 by 15" flap piece, 2 4" by width of fabric strips, 2 7 3/4 by 16" slip pocket pieces, and 1 10 1/4 by 19.5" piece for your inner pocket. Now to put this together. I'm going to start by taking one of my lining pieces, and I'm going to have that right side up. If you're using a solid, it does not matter if it's right side up or wrong side up, because there's no way to tell. Then I'm going to take my first pocket piece, the big one that is 19 inches by 10, Oh my goodness. It's 10 1/4 by 19 1/2. And I'm going to place that right side on here. So if this was the right side of the fabric, you can tell just by doing this. I'm going to put it right sides together, and I am going to center this up with this piece. Again, I am centering it up right here, and if you want to use a ruler, you can. So it's 1 inch from this side and not from that side. So let's scoot it just a little. I have almost an inch there and almost an inch there. So there we have it nice and center, as well as I am going to measure down about 2 inches, and I'm going to lay this pocket piece up on top of my okay, so like I have the ruler laying on it, I'm going to lay this fabric on top on this 1 inch line, just like so. Pull my ruler out. Everything looks to be straight and nice. Now it should be 1 inch from the top. My zipper, though, is going to come down 2 1/4. Sorry, I can't see one side of my ruler. 2 1/4 inches. And I am going to come in front here so that you can see. I'm going to line this up, and I'm going to draw a line that's pretty darn long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches long. So I'm going to draw an 8-inch long line with a pencil, and then I'm going to come a 1/2 inch away from that and draw another 8-inch line. With my marking tool, which just so happens to be a pencil. Then I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to line up the 1/4 inch line on the top line and draw my center line. But I'm also going to take into account that my pencil is kind of big. I'm going to line that up, and I'm going to just adjust it just a slight bit so that my pencil marking ends up in the center. And then I'm going to take and draw a triangle right here at the end. So I'm going to draw myself a triangle just like this at the end. Okay, so I hope you can see that on the camera. And now I'm going to take a couple pins and pin it in place just like this so that nothing moves, just like so. So now that I have a couple pins, I am going to go ahead now and sew on this line up and down this top line, not in the center. I'm just going to sew the top and bottom and right here on each side, but not in the center and not on those 2 V's. And I'll be right back. So now I'm going to stitch. I'm going to put my needle down somewhere in that line, just like that. And I'm going to back stitch when I start the stitch. And I'm going to sew on that line. And I'm using pink thread on this whole entire project. Stop on that corner, sew down, one more stitch, there we go, turn it around, stitch down this side now, staying on that line, Hold everything nice and steady. Turn it. Take a couple stitches up. I'm going to cut this starting string off and come to where I started and back stitch. And now that is sewn. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut on this line, but not in my triangles. So I'm going to start by just laying my ruler on the line, and I'm just going to start it like so, come really close, come to the other side, come really close, but I will finish my cut with my really sharp scissors, and then I'm going to trim to the corner but not hit my threads on both of those lines, all the way up to the thread but not the thread. Turn it around, do the opposite side, cut all the way up, but do not cut the thread. And this one I kind of need to go just a little bit in. So I came all the way up, but I did not hit the thread. Okay, so I did that on both sides. Got a little stitch right there. Okay, so now I'm going to pull these pins out because they are not needed, and I am going to go press this. To press this, I'm going to be very careful and not burn myself. I'm going to start by just pressing on it real quick, just like so. And then I'm going to take this other end right here, the other end of it, and I'm going to slide it through the hole like that. And then I'm going to take the top of it and slide it through the hole too. I pressed it first to warm up that seam. And the first thing I'm going to do is just hold that up there like this, keeping it kind of in half, and I'm going to come up to the seam really close with the iron, like this. And then push it back just a little with the tip of the iron. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Just going to come really, really close to it. I'm going to keep it in there just a little. Really, really close to the seam. Warm it up. And then I'm going to push the seam inside with just the tip. Turn the whole entire thing around like so. And now that I have pushed all that in, I'm going to lay it nice and flat right here. Pull this top piece nice and flat. And then fold this on it. Everything should be nice and flush now and flat. I'm going to grab these little sides where my corners are. I'm going to pull it out with my fingers. You can see my hands are back here behind there. Maybe the other side will be easier. And I'm going to run the iron. Again, I'm just going to pull this down so that everything is nice and flush. Run the iron all the way across that seam. If this side looks like it's wrinkling, just come in and pull it out just a little bit with your hands until it's nice and flat. Run the iron on top of it. Again with this top piece. Everything's nice and flat. Your seam should be now in the center. All the way down. Give it a little bit of steam. Don't run your iron along that because you'll end up catching it like I just did. Okay, and there we have it, a nice open seam. The next part is the zipper. Now, a friend of mine got me some of this zipper wash away tape. I have never used it before, so let's use this for the first time. And you've seen in previous videos, I actually just glued the zipper down under just like so. This time we're going to use this wash away tape. So I'm going to fold the zipper back, or the piece back. I'm going to open this zipper a little bit more. No, I'll just leave it closed. I'm just going to keep it, from the beginning and over this way some. And I am going to put some of this double-sided tape on here, I guess, like this. Never done this before, guys, so this one's a first. So I guess I just put this double-sided tape on to about right there. Ooh, that's really sticky. And then I'll put it on this bottom side. Oops. Like this. Come to about right here. And there we have some double-sided tape. And I guess I have to figure out now how to pull the top part away. I'm going to have some excess zipper hanging because this is a pretty big zipper. Oh, there it goes. It just comes right off. And look at that, guys. I'm learning something new while you guys are learning something new. I usually do glue, though, and this is a pretty wide zipper. This is not my normal zipper, but I'm using it because it's pretty, and it goes with the colors that I'm using. Alright, so there we have first piece of washable tape on here. I'm going to pull that end off because I think that's the arrow how it goes. Alright, it's on there. Good enough. Ooh, it's really stuck to my fingers. Alright, so now I'm going to put my zipper, not stuck to that, right here, and I'm going to take and hold this end and this end, and I'm going to line it up on this zipper like this. So I'm going to hook it to that double-sided washable tape on one side and then on the other like so. And there we have it. My zipper is now stuck in place and all this excess zipper can come off. So give me 2 seconds. And I don't need all this excess zipper, so we should just be able to trim it right off, just like that. So now I'm going to go ahead. I left enough to cover the end. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this real quick. Hold on. So I'm not really used to this glue on double-sided tape. It kind of, once it's like stuck for a minute, it takes a second to adjust. And I kind of think that it's sitting too high. So I'm just adjusting it a little by little all the way around. Just like this, so that it's, you know, all the way. So there it is. It's stuck to it now. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I decided that a really close frontal view would help you see the stitching all the way around. So I'm going to widen my stitch length to about 2.5 for this. And I'm just going to stitch a forward stitch and a back stitch right there. And I'm going to stitch all the way around. And I'm going to make sure that I come right here, turn the project, come right over the zipper area. It's a nylon zipper, so it should be easy to go around. Move this lift. Make sure nothing is folded under. We don't want anything folded under the wrong way. Now I'm going to come down this side. And I move extra strings out of the way. Keep this adjusted. Like I said, that tape is really different. I'm not used to it. This zipper is going to be in my way. It's a very big zipper. So I'm just going to move that out of the way real quick. And I'm going to sew the rest of the way around. Oops, I'm going to make sure that the zipper doesn't adjust itself. Sew up to this edge, turn it, sew across, and then come down the other side. as well as I'm going to take and snip away that beginning thread where I started. So I'm going to keep coming down this side. Again, with the adjusting of the zipper. I'm going to come like just a little bit beyond my starting point. So now my zipper is 100% attached. There's not much lift up on it because it was a big zipper, so that second stitch took that lip away. But now what I'm going to do is take that end that was left, and I'm going to bring it up to the top like this. So that bottom that was hanging is now covering the zipper like that. I'm going to fold that front part down and out of the way, and I am going to stitch this top seam right here closed with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm also going to make my stitch length smaller. So I'm going to sew across the whole entire top, keeping that piece folded out of the way, 100% out of the way. So I'm going to fold it out of the way. Back stitch. So now that you have that top stitched, you should have a tube, but now we're going to seal that tube. So now I'm going to fold this side out of the way, and I'm going to sew down this one side right here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, back stitching at the top, and actually it's a little bit more than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's about almost a 1/2 inch, and I back stitched at the bottom, but it's good enough. I'm going to flip that one out of the way, and I'm going to come over to this side, fold this out of the way, and I'm going to straighten it up, and I'm going to hold it, flip the whole thing under like so that I'm not stitching on that, and I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm going to top stitch right here at the top. I think I'm using a 1/2 inch of seam allowance, but that's okay. I'm just not paying attention, honestly, but I'm going to equal it on both sides. So I'm going to come all the way down, back stitch at the bottom. Don't want anything falling out of our pocket. And now we have a big mess. So now we should have a zipper pocket like this that opens up inside, and it's already sealed on the bottom. There's no seams to get ripped open. I actually like doing it this way. So I'm going to close that up. I'm going to take this over to the iron and re-flatten everything because of all the movement. So now we have a zipper pocket like so. It is sealed. You can open it up, look inside, put your hand in there. It is 100% sealed up. Close the zipper. It's got a nice decorative stitch, nice big zipper pull. Off to the next step. Now for the other piece of lining, as well as the two 7 3/4 by 16-inch wide pieces. We're going to take these two 7 3/4 by 16-inch wide pieces over to the sewing machine first. Let's get started on that. Alright, so now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam down the top and the bottom of this piece. Making sure it's lined up. Turn it around and sew down the other side. Now let's take it to the iron. for this step, we will take that piece that we have just made, and we are going to lay it on top about, I would say, a half an inch from these corners. So when you're laying it on here, go about half an inch up from here, because there's going to be seam in closing this off down here, so you do not want it laying on that. So let me turn it to the side so you can see. We're going to lay this evenly straight across about half an inch away, because we're going to have a seam here, and you don't want that extra bulk cutting this corner off with seam. So you want to lay it about half an inch up, and you should have about 2 inches exact from this top. Okay? I did the math correctly, guys. So there should be 2 inches from the top for this to lay. Now we're going to turn it to the side, and now this part is up to you depending on how big you want your pockets. I am going to go ahead and make one big and one small pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and measure over a certain amount. Let's do 10 inches. And I'm going to put a line. So one of my pockets will be 10 inches, and my other slip pocket will be the remaining 6. Okay? And now I'm going to take and draw a line straight down with my pencil, because it will disappear probably. I don't have any other marker to use. Just going to draw a really light line that I'm going to sew over anyway to this right here. I can see that line that I have just drawn, and now I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine for the next step. I went ahead and threw some pins in it. I am going to start by sewing on my line from here down to here. So I'm going to start at the top, just like this, and I'm going to put a couple back stitches right here to hold it nice and tight. And actually, hold on 2 seconds, because I just forgot a step. The step I forgot is to sew a straight line an eighth of an inch away from the edge along the top side of this. So I just went ahead and folded this out of the way because I forgot to put my stitch up here. So I'm just going to sew from one side to the other, just like this. Only sewing my pocket piece because I forgot that step. And for decorative purposes, I'm going to sew away from that by using the guide, or the foot, as a guide down the center again for a nice decorative stitch. So I'm going to follow that nice and straight. So it's pretty much an eighth of an inch away from the previous line. And there we have two lines that look like, two stitch lines that look like I used a double needle. I do that for decorative purposes. I like it. Alright, now flip that back up again. Oops, don't get stuck under the needle. And now I'm going to sew from the top of this line right here, straight from the top of this all the way down that line. And you guessed it, I'm probably going to do 2 stitches. So again, I'm going to back stitch right here at the top. I'm going to sew on that line. You can make your pockets however big you want. Alright, and I'm going to come to the bottom, and I'm going to do a nice back stitch. And for decorative purposes, I'm going to stitch again about an eighth of an inch away from that. Why? Because I like it, and I think it looks really nice. I'm going to break the thread, turn the whole entire thing now. I'm going to trim all these threads off. Turn the whole thing to where my pocket opening is now at the top, like this, and now I'm going to stitch along the whole entire bottom. So I'm going to go from one side to the other, and you guessed it, I'm going to again do a decorative stitch by doing 2 stitches. So first I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and I'll show you how that looks. So it looks like this, sewing right along the edge. Now I'm going to have a tiny little pucker, and that's only because I have not been paying attention too well, I guess. It's okay, nothing's perfect. Cross this whole bottom edge, and then I'm going to come back again to the top. Oops, I didn't mean to hit the camera, guys. Come back again to the top using my foot as the guide, and I need to sew this in a little better. Lining the center of this stitch up with the center of this here. I'm going to go across that whole entire bottom with a nice decorative stitch. So now it looks like a double stitch all the way. Again, it's probably not perfect, but I don't mind. There we go. So a nice double stitch. Now you can pull the pins out, and you have another finished piece. The sides I'm just going to go ahead and leave open because they will get closed when we put this piece together. So again, the sides are open, but from the top, if this was sewn down, I now have a smaller pocket, which will be like this, and a bigger slip pocket, which will be this. On to the next piece. Now we're going to take the back flap and the front zipper part for the inner lining. We're going to take those 2 pieces, and we are going to place those right sides together. So the flap should be in here, and this should be here, like this. So your flap and then your zipper. Your flap is your open area, and the zipper area is the open area. So we're going to put those now right sides together. They should be equal, and we're going to sew down one side, down the other side, a little bit on the bottom on each side. Okay, so let's go to the machine. So now I'm going to sew a little bit more than a 1/4 inch seam, about 3/8 of an inch seam. I'm going to back stitch right here at the top, and now I'm going to sew down to this bottom piece. I didn't pin anything, just going to sew on down like this, lining everything up. Back stitch at the bottom, then turn to the bottom like this, and I'll line it up like so, and I'm going to back stitch right here, and I'm going to come in about 2 inches right here, just like that. Then I'm going to come straight to the other side of that. I'm at the bottom of the bag, or the lining piece, and I'm going to start about 2 inches in. I'm leaving a whole entire hand space plus some at the bottom. I'm going to back stitch, I'm going to sew down and back stitch, turn the whole thing again now, and we're going to seal off the other side. So again, I'm just going to line this up just like so, and sew, back stitch at the bottom. We're going to come all the way to the top and back stitch. So now I should have my lining, and while we are right here, we are going to box these corners because it needs to be done anyway. So I'm going to take the 2 corners, and in front of the camera I'm going to show you, I'm going to lay one seam one way, one seam the other way. Oops, I got to try to get this where I can sew it, just like this. And now I'm going to sew that same about 3/8 of an inch seam from this corner to this corner, nesting those seams. So I'm just going to hold this down Keep everything nice and flat. Holding it with my hand. You can pin it if you need. There's honestly no need. Just come across, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch a couple times. I back stitch a lot because I don't want this to come open. Okay, so now that's sewn, like so. Now let's box the other corner. Again, I'm going to open it up like this. I'm going to use my finger to push one way and one the other. I'm going to nest them together. I'm going to put it right here under this, like so. Line it up, 3/8 of an inch seam, back stitch, back stitch, back stitch. Keep it lined up because it's starting to turn. Back stitch, quite a few times, all the way across. So that's what it looks like. And now that part is done. Let's see what it looks like. So now we should have a lining. If we were to turn this right side out, like this, it should sit nice and flat like this. Should have a zipper on one side and the slip pockets on the other side, like this and like this. And see, when we measured up like that for the corners, the slip pocket comes right to the bottom, like this, with room to spare on each side, so that the slip pocket's not folding in underneath and losing stuff down the corner. So it should sit up just right, as well as the inner pocket should be laying in there just right. So there's that. And I think, honestly, give me a second. I'm going to tell you this right now. I think, honestly, my inner pocket is kind of long. I might need to trim that down. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's see how much longer it is while we're right here. So I might need to trim it down while we're here. Let's put the bag like this. We're going to look from these two tips. I'm going to come out. So this is my first time making this, even though I put it all together on paper. All right. I'm going to sew from my back stitch right here to my back stitch right here on both sides, because I'm going to take that much off this pocket. So I'm going to take about an inch off. So let's mark that so that you can see and make sure that I get this correct. I'm going to come up an inch, and I'm going to sew an inch up right here on this line and then cut it off. My math isn't always accurate, guys. Alright, so I'm just going to sew on this line that I have now drawn, back stitching, just sewing on the line all the way across, back stitch, and now I'm going to take it and I am going to trim up, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch away. So that is much better. When it's sitting, it's touching the table perfectly. So now when I flip it right side out like this and look inside, the zipper actually lays across the bottom now. Or, I mean, the pocket lays across the bottom before the fold. So it lays across from here to here. If you can see that. From corner to corner is where it's laying. So I goofed up on that, guys, but that is okay. Just fix it. Just trim off a little bit. And we're going to get to the next step. Now, I don't have any thick foam or anything like that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, and I will do most of this off camera, is I'm just going to use some thick batting, and I'm going to take my top piece and bottom piece, so both my front and back pieces to my bag, I am going to quilt on these, and then I will start filming again. That way I can just get this done, because this part will take a few minutes. I'm going to kind of densely, I want it to be stiff, so I'm going to probably densely quilt this. So I shall be back in just a few. While we are waiting for the quilting on the bigger pieces, I'm going to take my 4" by 5" that I told you to fold in half again, and then press it completely in half, and I'm going to sew all the way around this whole entire thing with 1/8 of an inch of seam allowance. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to seal it up first, 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Come to the end, just go across to the other side, no big deal, and then come down the other side with 1/8 of an inch seam. Right there on that edge. And it honestly doesn't matter if you do the sides or not, as long as the 2 long sides are stitched. So you can see my 2 long sides are stitched, and then we're going to take this over to the cutting table, and I am going to cut this directly in half, which would be 2½ inches. Now you should have 2 2½ inch pieces by 1 inch pieces. And I'm just going to put these together. So I'm going to insert my D-ring with the flat side, like so, line up the 2 ends, and I'm just going to, for now, stitch these closed so that they are ready for the next step, just to get everything situated and that you know what you're sewing. So I'm just going to sew right here on the edge, kind of just to hold them together. Just leave that on the machine. Stick this through the D-ring on the flat edge. Hook the 2 ends together like this. And I'll lift this up and just stitch at the edge, just so that they are ready to go. So I should have these, and they look just like this. So now those 2 pieces are ready to go. Okay, so the next step is to take your front and your back lining, and then your 5½ by 15 inch piece. I'm just going to use batting in mine, and your other 5½ by 15 inch piece. What you're going to do is not your accent color, but you're going to take, let me just move this out of the way, you're going to take the other color. And what you're going to do is just use one side for now. You are going to measure in, I'm sorry, I pre-marked this because I forgot to record. You're going to come down 1 inch, so line up from the top, come down 1 inch, put it at one edge to start, and you are going to take these little pieces right here. It's hard to pick them up. Okay, take one of these, and from the edge, you're going to come in 3 5/8 inch. So 3 5/8 inch, 1 inch down, and you're going to make a mark. Okay, oops. 3 5/8, and you're going to put your dot, and then you're going to take a pencil or whatever you have, and you're going to mark it. And honestly, it's not really an inch down because I did the measurements. It's more like with the metal snap hitting, it's actually an inch down where the dot is, where I marked it, if that makes any sense. So I came in 3 5/8 inch and put a dot. Then I moved the ruler out of the way and put this there. So when this is in the way, the little tab thing, it's 3/4 of an inch, sort of, and it sits there. And then I took a pencil and I marked it. Not only I lined this up on the center hole, but I marked inside both of those areas. Then I went to the other side, again, lining it up an inch on the edge, and I came over to 3 5/8 inch again and made a mark. And that is not 3 5/8. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. So that's that mark. I made my line on the wrong side. So I'm just going to erase that because it comes off. It's washable and erasable. And I'm going to line this back up 3 5/8 inch over, an inch down, and I'm going to mark this right here for my little thingamabobber. So I'm going to make sure one more time, because if I did this wrong again, I will have to cut a new piece. 3 1 2 3 4 5/8 exactly. So that's where I want it. Okay. And then I took and put some interfacing on the back for now. Okay, just over those areas so you can see if you mark it. So I have some interfacing on it for now. Then with the purse, take one side, which will be the front of your bag, and you are going to come down 1.5 inches, like so. And you're going to come over 4 inches. This time you are not adjusting it. You're just going to put your little snap to the edge of your ruler, just like that. You're going to come over 4 inches from the edge, 1.5 inches down. You are going to put a dot. Line that up. Put a dot, and then draw on both sides inside the hole. Go to the other side. Come over 1.5 inches down, line that up, and then come over to 4 inches, like so. Place your little thingamabobber, just like this, and from the ruler down. So this little thing, line the top of this up with the ruler, just like this. Put a dot, and then draw your 2 lines. So it should be 4 inches in. In reality, the actual dot is 2 inches down. Okay? So 2 inches down and or 1.5 inches, because you're taking in account from the little dot. In reality, we are lining up this piece with that piece, because that will be for the fold that comes over. So I don't need interfacing on these, so I will start with those. I'm going to lay these right here, just like that, and make sure everything's correct. And now I'm going to take my seam ripper, and I'm going to come in right here, and I'm going to poke in, and then I'm going to seam rip up very carefully, only on that line, just a little. Second line right here, push in, seam rip up just a little, enough to get my metal pieces in. So again, I'm going to seam rip this over here on this side, coming through all the layers. I'm using my fingers to keep myself from going too far. So I'm just coming up a little, pushing the other hole. Again, just pushing up just a little, like that. So I should have some holes on the back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to find a male end, because it's sticking out, and this is the female end. I'm going to find a male end and a female end, and again I'm going to find, oops, another male end and another female end. I'm going to put the female end with these holes into these holes that I have now created. We're going to line those up. We're going to stick them through the holes that we just cut out, just like that. Again, female end, it's going to come right here, and I'm going to line it up and push it through the holes that we have just created. Then I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to take my 2 washers, I'm going to stick them on, and then I'm going to bend these down and out of the way, like so. Just use your fingers to push it down. There we go. Bent down, and they are on here really well now, just like that. So those are nice and on there. Now we're going to take the 5.5 by 15 inch piece. we're going to do the same thing. We're going to poke the hole, just go up just a little. I kind of just carefully go, poke the hole at the bottom, use the seam ripper to go up just a little, and we're going to do both of these. Use the seam ripper to go up just a little, poke into the bottom, seam ripper up a little. Okay. And now I'm going to take my male ends, and I'm going to stick a male end right here, and be very careful poking it through, and the other male end right here, poke it through, like so, flip it around. I'm going to put a washer on it, on both of these, and then I'm going to press them down. And if you can't do it that way, just use some pliers or something. It really goes okay with the fingers. And then I just kind of take the ends and just push it out just a little bit more so it's nice and flush. And then once I have these on here with the washer, what I like to do is take one more piece of interfacing, and I'm going to cover it like this, and I'm going to iron it on, but I'm going to lay it down this way. And just get some heat and press it on there. And I'm going to do the same thing with this because I have plenty of pieces of this. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to, but I am doing it just to close them in. So I'll be right back. So just that you can see, I have now enclosed with the interfacing on both of them. I just do that for, I don't know, so that it never comes undone. So now that that is done, we're going to move this piece out of the way. Like that. I'm going to take this piece right here, and now I'm going to take this piece. I'm putting mine enclosed like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right side down now, which would be, this is the right side down on here, and I'm going to stitch all the way around, except I'm going to leave a small I'll do my small little opening on this side so that I can flip it through, but I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way around this, and I will be right back. Okay, because I used batting on mine, I went ahead and sewed my batting on the bottom, my accent fabric right side up, and my lining fabric right side down. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim off my corners right here. I left an opening right here, not on the side that the magnetic snaps are on. Now I'm going to snip away these corners up to the stitching, but not the stitching. Makes it easier to flip, and I'm going to trim away this excess batting that's right here for thickness purposes. And then one more corner. I stitched a 1/4 inch all the way around this. And now I'm going to reach in like so, in between the two layers, not the batting, in between, and I'm going to flip these out like this, flip it out like this, and what you should have, stick your hand in there, poke that corner out nice and tight. Now you can make your flap however you want to make it. This is just the way I'm doing it. I'm going to go in and push this other side out like this. I want it nice and pushed out, see? Grab all the corners, push them out nicely. Every single corner is pushed nicely out. And this corner is the only one that's playing games. Oh, there we go. I'm using my fingernail to get it pushed out. Now I'm going to take this over to the iron, okay, and I am going to just nicely flatten this out like so, and I'm going to press this at the iron real quick. I'm also going to fold this in a 1/4 inch and press along this whole entire thing, so that way I can pre-crease the seam that I'm going to seal shut. So I'll be right back. Okay, now it is pressed and it is nice and flat, perfectly flat. I made my seam line so it's already closed. All I need to do is stitch. I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch all the way around this whole entire piece. So I changed my stitch length. I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to stitch around this whole entire thing, sealing that opening. Just stay right there on the edge. And come to the corner, and one more stitch, and then I'm going to pivot. Maybe one more stitch. There we go. Pivot, and then come down this side, just like this. Come right to the edge. Let's see if that goes. Oh, that should be good. Let's get one more stitch kind of that way and pivot. And stitch down this side now. There. Turn it. Stitch it. One more stitch. And come down this side to where I started. And for decorative purposes only, what I'm going to do now, hold on, let me trim this away. Okay, for decorative purposes only, for me, the side that this is on, so this would be the bottom now, and this would be the top. I'm only going to put a second stitch down the two sides, the short sides, and along the side, the long side that has those on it. So I'm just going to put a decorative stitch all the way around, same that I've been doing. So 1/8 of an inch away from that stitch, come right here, pivot it, go down this side, one more stitch, and sorry about that, holy moly, that was not supposed to happen. And then come down this short side, back stitch, and that's it. I don't need to stitch the whole top part, just my second stitch is only around the side. You can see 2 stitches only around this edge. Okay, that part is now done. Okay, so the side that you put the female ends in, set that aside, grab the opposite one, which would be the back side, and we are going to put this piece on here. You're going to center it, and now it is about 1/2 inch away from both sides. You want to make sure that your snaps, the male ends, are on the bottom, so towards the bottom. So here would be my cutouts. Here's the top. I want my little male end magnetic snaps to be towards the bottom. We're going to line this up, and if you need a ruler to make sure that you're equal, we got almost a 3/4 inch on that side. Oh, and almost a 3/4 inch on that side. It's perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep this right here. We're going to just throw a pin in it so it doesn't move. And I am going to now stitch, not, I don't know, less than a 1/4 inch away, all the way down this whole side. So let me show you. So I'm going to make my stitch length just a little bit smaller, about 2.5. I'm going to come up here to the top, and like I said, almost a 1/4 inch, but not a 1/4 inch away. I'm going to come right here, I'm going to line this top up, and I'm going to back stitch right here. It's going to be kind of thick. This whole bag is now going to become really thick, but you should be able to do it. I'm just going to sew down this, keeping keeping everything nice and aligned. Don't let anything move. They're right sides together, 3/4 of an inch away from each side, back stitching at the ends. So now you should have a piece that looks like this. So let's take this over and look. So now it would look like this. Now if you were to take and stick your other piece right side down, this one right side up, flip them over, lift up that flap, take that flap and come down and hook it. It should lay perfect. Your hook should be in there just right, like that. Just put your hooks down. So now everything should still be lined up just like this. So there's that so far. And it doesn't look like much, but this is it so far. So now I'm going to take those apart. I'm going to lay that back down just like it was. And now we're going to take that front piece only, setting aside that rear piece. And we're just going to put that out of the way for now. Actually, we'll just move it over here. And we're going to get to the next part. All right, now I'm going to set these aside. We're going to take all the 5.5 by 6.5 inch pieces. So I'm going to match up my accent color with my lining color, my accent color with my lining color, and I have fusible on that, or interfacing I should say. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just lay this one piece on here for now, and I'm going to trim this batting down to size, which is kind of perfect right there. And I'm going to do it with both. I want batting on mine. You can use just the interfacing only, but I'm using batting for my project because I have tons and tons of little pieces of batting. Just nothing big enough for a quilt right now. Again, I'm going to trim this one down too. I'm just going to line it up right here on one of the ends perfectly. I'm going to lay it on here. I'm going to cut that piece off, turn it, cut this piece off, and now we are going to make some front pockets. Okay, here's the fun part about these front pockets. Now we're going to lay these on here right sides down, just like so, right sides down, just like so, and nothing on, we're going to make sure everything's lined up, okay? Nothing on this bag is exact, but we're going to take these right here, and I am going to go ahead and take a thread spool, and that one's kind of small. Let's find a different size one. We'll just use my binding clip jar because that seems to be a good enough curve. And I'm going to take my pencil and I am going to draw that curve just like so. Okay, I'm going to put this, so I have a drawn curve right there. I'm going to put this on this side now and draw this curve again, just like so. So there I have some curves drawn. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other one. So on both pieces, drawing some curves, just like so. And they all need to be the same curve. So I'm drawing these curves, just like that. And now I'm going to take my scissors before I go to the sewing machine. Actually, I'm just going to go to the sewing machine. Screw it. Let's do it. Remember, batting on the bottom. Your lining faced right side up. Your accent color right side down. We're going to go over to the sewing machine without even cutting these out. So you can see my line. Okay, I'm going to come in right here at this top 1/4 inch, like so. And if you need a guide, which is what I always need, is a guide, you know. So I'm going to line my guide up at my 1/4 inch line, come in, and now I'm going to sew this, thumb down, make sure everything stays lined up, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from that curve, and I guess I don't need the guide. Just going to hold it and start sewing 1/4 inch away from that curve. Coming to the edge, sew down, 1/4 inch very slowly. You can speed up if you need. 1/4 inch away from my curve, to this side. Now I'm going to sew in about 1 inch this way. Back stitch. Come a little bit apart so that I can have a place to flip. And so I sewed on each side like that, leaving a gap. Okay. Now we're going to repeat that process with the second piece. So you can either start on this corner right here, come down, 1/4 inch seam, come around the curve, nice and slow, come around the curve, nice and slow, up, and then come in about 1 inch, leaving an opening. Now let's go to the next part. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and trim away this excess right here of my curve. So I'm pretty much trimming on the curve line. I'm going to come over and do the same on this other side. So on the line that I have drawn, like so. I'm also going to cut away my top corners like this and like this. And then I'm going to take and put some slits up to my stitch line around my curve right here. Just like this, all the way around the curve. Go to this side, do the same thing, up to the stitches, just put a bunch of snips about 1/4 inch apart, all the way around the curve. Do the same with the next piece, come around on the line that you drew, put your little cuts in your curve all the way around it, that way it lays flatter. Cut the corner so that it pokes out really nice up to the stitch line but not the stitch line, and the last curve, come around and snip around the curve up to the stitch line but not the stitch line. That's just so that it lays flat. Okay, now get rid of your little scrap pieces through that hole. Again, not between the batting, we're going between the two fabrics. We're going to push this out through that hole like so. I'm going to push my little corners out right here really nicely. Come over here, push this corner really nicely. I'm going to reach my fingers in. I'm going to find my curve. I'm going to use my fingers around that slight curve. And now it should lay really nicely. So the top should be flat and the bottom should be curved, just like so. So again, I'm going to repeat the process. Second piece. Come through. These are going to be some very thick pockets, but I kind of like it. I think it adds character to this bag because we are quilters and we are having fun with making bags. Well, at least I am, and I'm pretty sure you are along with me. the interfacing is helping this top piece lay nice and flat, which is good because I didn't really even need to, you know, push out my curve here. It's like laying really nicely on both sides. And then I'm going to take this over the iron, and I'm going to press this shut like so. On both of these, I'm just going to pull in, fold it in the 1/4 of an inch, use the iron, and I'm going to press this whole entire piece, and I'll be right back. Okay, so do not seal these because I totally forgot something. So don't seal these yet. Just leave them open. Why? Because we need to attach something. Now we're going to take these next pieces, just like this, and I am going to come up. We're just going to turn it upside down on the piece that has the interfacing, not the piece that doesn't have the interfacing. And I'm going to come up 1 inch, and oops, we're going to center right here. It's 4 1/2, so 2 1/4 is half. We're going to come over 2 1/4, and I'm going to put a dot right here. And I'm going to do that on both of these little 4 1/2 by 3 1/2 inch pieces. Again, 1 inch up from one side, and 2 1/4, put a dot. We're going to make sure that the other one is the same thing one more time. Yep, 2 1/4. Now, because I forgot the other one, we're going to take 2 of our little things. We're going to line it over that hole. We're going to put a line on each side, like this. Line it up over the hole. Draw a line on each side, like this. And I'm going to put an extra piece of interfacing on both of these pieces, just like this. Just like this. I'm going to put an extra piece on each of these so that it's doubled. So I'll be right back. Okay, now that there's an extra piece, I know it's hard to tell. We are going to take our cutter and go in on those lines with our seam ripper, poke the hole on the line, use it to come up and create a little bit of a slash in it. You could probably use scissors too if you wanted. Just coming up just a little bit, just like so. Now we're going to take the male end on the front side, stick that male end in there, like so. So it'll sit like this, okay? And then this one as well, put the male in, just like this, poke it through the hole, take your washers, and then press them open, like so, and then adjust it like that. Same thing with this one. Open them up. I try to make them lay as flat as possible, okay, on both. So these are the male ends on there. I'm going to take a piece of interfacing again, and I'm going to close these off, put the interfacing over it to seal them. Be right back.